Hey, good Yom Tov. This is really, really special. You cannot imagine how you warmed my heart by coming out now. It's amazing to see the thirst that we all have to learn more Torah, specifically more Chassidut. Namely, as we enter now, literally now, these moments, we're entering into Yud-Tes Kislev, which is the Chag HaGeula, the holiday of redemption of the Alter Rebbe of Shneir Zalman. This is really, really special. And so, I decided to call this class Kabbalah 101 because we talk about Chassidus all the time. We talk about Kabbalah, and a lot of people they start getting a little scared. Oy vey, what's this all about? What's the subject about? It also says, at least about the Zohar, that we usually do not learn Zohar until the age of 40. And then some people think maybe, well, can I come to the class, a class about Kabbalah, because maybe I'm not up to that or haven't learned enough. And so I think it's important at a day like this, which is the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, which we call, in Chassidus, we call the Torah Shebichtav, the written, quote unquote, written Torah of Chassidus, in other words, the basics. I think it's a great time and a great opportunity for us to learn together some of the basics, at least to have some kind of foundation of what Kabbalah is, what Chassidus is. By the way, generally speaking, Kabbalah and Chassidus is pretty much the same thing, but more specifically, it's not exactly the same. Many of the subjects of Chassidus are based on some of the foundations of Kabbalah. But Chassidus, in a sense, is a whole different ballgame. Okay. I would like to start off with a story that I heard at the Kinos this year. I was just at the International Shluchim Conference, and it had a very big impact on me. Also because I've heard it before, and the rabbi who it happened with told the story over here at Chabad of Rechavia. One of the great things we have over here is that we have people coming from all around the world all the time, including shluchim, including Chabad rabbis. I just want to mention that the fact that there's Baruch Hashem noise is a positive thing. Do you know that in some of the big yeshivas over here in Yerushalayim, you have 1,000 yeshiva students literally have a room full of black hats and they're learning and they're all screaming. Not only one of the chavrutas, but both of them are. It's good noise, positive noise. So, the more you get into it, then we're trying to get you into the hang of things. So the more you get into it, the more you learn to, I don't know, I guess to focus and make sure. You know what? It's like I say that when the kids come and they scream, some people say shh, and I say 1 second. It's background music. A little baby crying. Is there anything better than that? I tell that one of the great rabbis. I don't know if it was Aryeh Levine of Yerushalayim or one of the other really iconic rabbis. That he was getting older and he was in, I think, Shari Tzedek or Hadassah, and they had this crane drilling or digging right behind the hospital. And so the person that was helping the rabbi said, "I'm so sorry that there's this noise, but you know, it's is there anything I can do to help quiet the noise?" He said that he was from the Holocaust and the concentration camps. He said there's no noise, background music, which is better than building Yerushalayim. There you go. So it's all about how you look at it. That's actually the point that we're going to be talking about. So I'm really happy that we started with this quote unquote side note, which is really Hashem ultimately runs the show, and so he put that idea in my mind. And so first, let's start with, before I get to the story, let's start with the Baal Shem Tov says, who's the founder of Chassidus, if you want to know about something, look into the name, whether it's a person or it's an object. You want to know. What is it? You look at the name, the Hebrew name. When you look at the Hebrew name, that sheds light onto the entire picture. In any other language, there's nothing. There isn't any intrinsic connection between the name and the object. For example, table. One guy woke up one morning and decided to call it a table. But in Hebrew, shulchan, wow, the shin, the lamed, the chet, the nun sofit, these are powerful. Each letter is an energy for itself. And when you make that combination, first the shin, then the lamed, I can't explain all that, but that gives, now we have a table. And so, let's Kabbalah. Well, what's Kabbalah? Let's look into the word Kabbalah. Kabbalah comes from the word lekabel, to receive. In fact, in the ethics of our fathers, in the first Mishnah, Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe received the Torah from Har Sinai. Now, sometimes we refer to the giving of the Torah as being matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. Sometimes we call it Kabbalat Torah, receiving of the Torah. Well, make up your mind. Is it the giving or the receiving? The answer is the famous Jewish answer, D, all of the above. In other words, if you look at it from Hashem's perspective, Hashem gave us the Torah, Har Sinai. If you look at our Am Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, who represented us, it's Kabbalat Torah, receiving the Torah. And in each subject, the focus is the way we set it up. So, like in the Mishnah, for example, we're talking about Moshe. So, Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Moshe received. So, lekabel, really, this is the key word of Kabbalah. Kabbalah means receiving. What does that mean? We're going to see soon that there are different parts of the Torah. One Torah, there's the revealed part of the Torah, and there's the mystical part of the Torah. The deeper perspective, the deeper interpretation of the Torah. And so, they're both holy, both part of one Torah. But at the end of the day, they're the Kabbalistic, the mystical part of the Torah is perhaps a little bit more, in a revealed sense, a little bit. I don't want to say more divine. I don't want to say the wrong words. I'm trying to, as you can probably tell, I'm trying to mark my words. It's all holy. Even the Mishnah that talks about if my ox gores your cow, how much do we have to pay? And we have to go to the Beit Din. All that doesn't sound very, very spiritual per se. Nonetheless, every single word of it is holy. Having said that, the Tanya and the Zohar, every word of the Hasidus is clearly divine. That's my point. It's clearly divine. The whole Torah is divine, but not always can we see it. And if and when we have the insight to be able to connect the two, sometimes we have the blessing and the insight to connect the two, the revealed part of the Torah and the mystical part of the Torah, then we can try to reveal, as we're going to see soon, at least some of the parts of the revealed part of the Torah to give a different perspective. How do we do that? How can we bring ourselves to such a state where we can understand, we can receive the light, the inner light of the Torah, by being Kabbalah? If we can bring ourselves to accept, to be receivers, which is basically associated with the idea of being humble. If a person decides that, the Mishnah says, also in the ethics of our fathers, who is Ezehu Chacham? Who is a smart person, a wise person? Halomed mikol adam. He who learns from everyone. Now, this is the exact opposite of the way the typical world looks at the concept of Chacham. Chacham, you ask a regular person, what's Chacham? Oh, a person who's a bigger professor, more knowledgeable, someone who's more... I don't mean to say this. Excuse me, I'm not trying to put anyone down. Like, whoever is full of themselves. But someone who learns from other people, that's what's called Chacham. Maybe call it a nav, a humble person. But Chacham? What is that? That's the answer. The answer is that what deeply categorizes if we are truly wise, if we are able to hear from someone else and say, wow, I never knew that before. What does the other person say to you? Wow, I can add to you something? That's amazing. You didn't know that before? You tell them, you taught me something? That means that's a truly wise person. The same thing is by Ezel Ashir, who was rich. Who was rich? Ezel Ashir, who was happy with their lot. Well, if you ask a regular person, who is rich? Whoever has more numbers in their bank account. Not who is happy and says, wow, thank you Hashem for what I have. That's what the Mishnah teaches us. The more we are happy and complacent and grateful to Hashem for what He gave us, that categorizes deeply what means who is a person who is rich. Same thing with Chacham. So that's the idea that I'm trying to bring across is the foundation of Kabbalah. If we've developed this feeling, this approach in Torah, between each other, in business, whatever it is, in family, is so important. Some of the person says, I'm the head of the household. Well, or talking about shidduch, right? Talking about marriage. So some people look at marriage as being, wow, what can I get out of it? How much can you fulfill my desires, my interests? But according to the Kabbalah, it's the exact opposite. What can I give you? How can I be a receiver from you? In other words, how can you enlighten, because you're more special than me, how can I receive from you that I should also have part of share the special qualities that you have. You know, we break the glass underneath the chuppah, right at the end of the chuppah. And so most people say, and this is 100% true, why do we break the glass? Because since every simcha is incomplete until we have the third Beit HaMikdash, so we break the glass, which gives us a feeling of some kind of brokenness and destruction. It reminds us of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So I once heard a beautiful insight. When the Chatan breaks the glass under the chuppah, what's he essentially saying to the Kala? What's the Kala say to the Chatan? Each one of us feels that we are a little broken. You are complete, and we are incomplete. I am incomplete. And because you're complete, you're the main one in the picture, in the equation. I am hopefully going to fulfill my part in this relationship that's going to make your life better. That's going to not what am I going to get? Well, how am I going to become bigger? How am I going to be more glorious? But not that I'm in the center, that you're in the center. Okay, so that's really important. That's when we talk about Kabbalah 101. Hopefully, this is the foundation of trying to understand, of anytime we enter into the whole picture, the whole scenario of Kabbalah, that has to be our approach. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for us to understand these things, because they're much deeper concepts. And so, okay, hopefully that point is clear. Now I'm going to go back to the story that I started telling earlier that I heard at the Kinus, and it's really important that I share it with you, perhaps with some more details that I've told it in the past. This story is with Rabbi David Goldstein, who is a shliach in Texas, and he is a chaplain of all the prisons, I believe, across Texas. And he deals, when he told the story several years ago, he said he deals with 1,500 prisoners, Jewish prisoners, across the state. So one time somebody came to him and said, there's a Jewish man on death row, and in the next near future, he's going to be killed, executed. And what can you do? Can you go visit him? Maybe even put on tefillin? Maybe learn something with him? What can you do? So he said, sure. He got the name, he did some research, and he learned that this young man was very, very far from Judaism. His whole family, he murdered several people and so this is not so simple to meet such a guy. Actually, someone that's on this level, that's on death row, is not allowed to have any visitors. But Rabbi Goldstein had some connections, Baruch Hashem, and he was able to schedule a meeting 3 or 4 days before the planned execution. And so he comes in, he says there's a room, the police guards his name was Fred. So they brought Fred in, chained up, big guy. Rabbi Goldstein is thinking about all the things that he read about him. Sounds pretty scary. And then he sees him. And so there's a table. He sits on the other side of the table. Rabbi Goldstein sits over here. And he says, Rabbi Goldstein says to him, thank you very much. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. He goes, Rabbi, thank you for coming. But I just want to tell you, Rabbi, that if you're here to talk about Judaism, the meeting is over now. I forgot to mention something important, that before Rabbi Goldstein came to meet Fred, Rabbi Goldberg called his mother and said that after a person passes away, it's important not to be cremated, because he read that Fred wanted to be cremated, and it's really important. The Jewish body is holy, and it's important that it should not be desecrated. It should be buried according to how the Torah wants. That's the way the Torah wants. And she didn't want, and he called a number of times. She got upset at him, but anyways, he decided not to continue pushing the issue. And he came to meet Fred, and they started talking. He said, "Okay, don't talk about." He said, "Don't talk about Judaism." So they're talking, and he read that he was very into sports. So Rabbi Goldstein starts talking about all kinds of sports, and then he sees as the 20 minutes are coming. He only had 20 minutes. That's it. So he's watching the clock, and as the 20 minutes is almost over, he realizes that the police guard, fell asleep. Must have been very, very busy, very, very overworked. And so he fell asleep, and Rabbi Goldstein said, "Thank you, Hashem. This is my chance." And so here's the point of why I'm saying the story now. Rabbi Goldstein says, "I read that your friend likes Kabbalah." Fred's eyes light up. Kabbalah? I also love Kabbalah. Oh, interesting. What do you like about Kabbalah? He says, "I like the Jewish letters. The letters according to the teachings of Kabbalah." Interesting. Rabbi Goldstein says, "Which letter do you like?" So he says, "Shimu." So and he makes like a shin, like a three. He got mixed up. He didn't know exactly how to say the letter. Oh, Rabbi Goldstein says, "Oh, okay, you mean the shin. Very nice. Why do you like the shin?" Because the shin was engraved on King David's shield, and that shows on toughness, and King David was victorious. So I love the shin in his language. So Rabbi Goldstein had a genius response. He said, "You want me to show you a shin?" He takes up the tefillin, and he shows him that on the tefillin shal rosh, on the head tefillin, there is a shin carved out. He says, "Fred, do you want to put on this shin?" He goes, "Sure." And he had an opportunity now to put on tefillin on this Jew that never put on tefillin 3 days before he was to be executed. Put on the tefillin, they said the bracha, they said the Shema word after word. And as they're finished, and then after he took up the tefillin, he says, "Listen, Fred, I understand that you're planning to be cremated after your passing. I just want to mention that it's very, very important that a Jewish body is buried properly according to the way the Torah wants." He says, "Rabbi, as you wish. Whatever you decide." Then the guard knocks. Time to go. So the guard is about to take him out. And the rabbi turns to him and says, "Fred, can I ask you a question?" He said, "If it makes you happy." I'm sorry, she said yes. Rabbi Goldstein says, "Can I give you a hug?" Then he says, "If it makes you happy, fine." He goes, "Yeah, it'll make me happy." And Rabbi Goldstein gave him a big hug. Unfortunately, 3 days later, Fred was executed. I think that's the terminology. And of course, he got a phone call. And he got a phone call from Fred's mom. And he was sure that she was going to scream at him for bringing up the subject. She said never to bring up the subject again. With Fred, of course. And so she says to the rabbi, "I just want to tell you that in all of the 8 years that Fred was incarcerated, he never received a hug. You are the first person that gave Fred a hug. And I know that you spoke to him about not having cremation. You have full responsibility of Fred's body." Kabbalah is something that different people take in different ways. And everyone has their own approach depending on what their previous knowledge or experience or things that someone has heard about Kabbalah. But the thread that goes through every detail, every class, every experience which has to do with Kabbalah has to be what we said earlier about the foundation of Kabbalah, that is being able to receive. So if someone, I'm just going to take an extreme example. I was thinking about if I should mention this, but I think it's just going to bring the point across. And it's no secret that there's, in the non-Jewish world, a center that claims to deal with Kabbalah. And what's the underlining problem with it? Besides the point that it doesn't go according to halakha, according to Torah, that's obvious. It's not even Jewish. You can't take a Jewish concept and start using it for especially such a refined, holy, and sensitive subject like Kabbalah. But in our subject, what are we talking about? They're making up their own stuff. They might be taking some of the ideas and trying to translate it. But at the end of the day, it's not being lekabel. It's not receiving. They're making up their own things. They're making as if they are their own entity and their own. That's the opposite of receiving. And if we're missing this main point of being receptive and being understanding and being humble, then you're missing the whole thing. That's the foundation. If you don't have a foundation, you could have a wonderful building, but in a second it come crumbling down. So that's what's so important, that we have the foundation of the Torah and of Kabbalah. By divine providence, this month, this holiday, this Yud-Tes Kislev tonight that we're celebrating, the holiday of redemption of the Alter Rebbe, is in the month of Kislev. That's exactly what we're saying now. Kislev can be divided into two words. There are 4 letters. Right to left. So Kaf, Samach, Lamed Vav. So we can take the first 2 letters, Kaf and Samach, Kis or Kes, and Lev. By the way, Lev is not a heart. Lamed Vet is a heart. This is Lamed Vav. We'll explain that in a second. When it comes to the month of Tishrei, we know it says Bakese Yom Chagenu. Bakese means hidden. The first 2 holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, are considered more hidden, more quiet, as opposed to Sukkot, which is simcha, joy, going out of oneself. The first half of the month of Tishrei is more inward, more I don't want to say serious, but as opposed to Yom Chagenu, Sukkot. So kis is like that word of kes, bakese, which means there are some things in the world, including in Torah, which need to be more inward. But then you have the Led, Lamed Vav. Lamed Vav is a numerical value of 36. It's the same numerical value of the word Eleh. Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, and Hey is 5, equals 36. So Eleh means these. In other words, when you're looking at something, now I see it. These pens, these cups, these seats, these people. That's Eilah. So Lamed Vav, on one hand, we have the 36 hidden tzaddikim, but then we have the Eilah, which means that it's revealed. What does that mean, revealed? That Chassidus helps us take concepts which may be concealed, like the first half of the word of Kislev, Kes, Kaf, Samach, and take them to the next half of the word, Lamed Vav, and to reveal them, Eilah, to bring them into the revelation. So let's take a beautiful example. Just this week's parsha. The parsha is about the story of Shechem that took Dinah, and he deserved the death penalty. So Yaakov and the sons came, and they did whatever they did, and they got rid of the whole town. Now, what the Torah tells us that Dinah went out, Vateitze Dinah, she went out. So how does Rashi comment? This is fascinating. How does Rashi comment? Oh, she's like her mother. Ki'ima kibita, like mom, like daughter. By her mother, Rachel was perhaps a little more modest. I don't want to say anything wrong about Leah, I'm just trying to express this concept in the best possible way. Leah was more, the Torah says, Rashi quotes the verse. Earlier in the previous parsha of Vayetze, Vateitze Le'ah likrato. What is the pasuk talking? The pasuk is talking about when Reuven mixed up the beds after I'm sorry, that's the mixing of the beds was another story. It's also the last parsha. We're talking about when Leah went out to bring back the flowers, and Rachel said that And she wanted some, and then she said that we'll trade it. That Rachel said, I will take the Dudaim, which happened to be a segula for children, and Yaakov would be with Leah that evening. So Vateitze Leah Likrato. Leah was so excited that she's going to be with the tzaddik that evening that she went out. Now, what's Rashi? How did the whole world, until 40 years ago, when the Rebbe said this insight, how did the whole world interpret this Rashi? Dina did a no. That's why she got caught by Shem. And where did she get that from? From her mom. But the Rebbe won't let anything bad be said about anyone, even in a scenario which seems to be negative. He says, very simply, going out is not necessarily a bad thing. To be outgoing can be a good thing. If you want to be a shliach, if you want to influence someone, you're basically going out of your own comfort zone, and you're going to help someone else. It's not taken. It's not so self-understood that a person's going to go out and help someone else. It takes effort. It's not so easy to go out every time to put on tefillin and to go out and give Shabbat candles. And you see someone, just forget about mitzvahs for a second. You see someone's sad. You see somebody's bothering them. Pick up the phone. How are you doing? I'm here for you. It's not easy. I know it's not easy. But it's going out of one's comfort zone. So actually, it says, we sing in it's a different sikha there, but it's fascinating. We sing, oh, Dishama Bi'arayuta, right? Kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol. So we have the voice of the chatan and the voice of the kala. The Rebbe asked a simple question. What do you mean? Whatever happened to we have a famous halacha, but kol isha, we're not allowed to listen to a woman singing. It's not a modest thing that men should listen. How could it be when Mashiach comes? But od yishama, when Mashiach comes, we're going to hear Ba'arei Yehuda v'chutzot Yerushalayim, kol sason v'kol simcha, right? Kol chatan v'kol kala. The Rebbe says something fascinating. In short, when Mashiach comes, there's not going to be a Yetzer Hara anymore. There's not going to be evil inclination. But here's the point that I'm trying to bring out. Even now, in the final moments of the galut, of exile, we already have. We can't yet have kol kala. We can't have women singing in public. However, the concept, the idea of being outgoing, that's my point. Vateitze Leah, Vateitze Dina. Leah went out. It can have a positive connotation. In fact, Yaakov was punished by hiding Dina. When he met Esav, he meant well, right? He didn't want Esav. Imagine if Esav would have seen beautiful Dina, then he could have taken her. So it's unbelievable. He was punished, so to speak, that she was taken by Shem because he did not go regular and he hit her. Why? Because, you hear this? Dina could have brought Esav back to Tshuva. It's unbelievable. Dina, Yaakov should have not hidden Dina. Why? Because Dina may have helped Esav return to Hashem. So, and the Rebbe proves this idea from Rashi. Rashi himself, how does he bring a proof that going out, quote unquote, is bad? From the verse in the previous pasuk, but Leah, that Leah went out. By Leah, that was not a bad thing. It's the beginning of the pasuk. She didn't do anything bad. On the contrary, it's such a big mitzvah that she was so happy to be with Yaakov that evening. And from here we learn a halacha that any time a woman wants to be with her husband and she does something special to show that how excited she is, then it's a mitzvah to be with her that night. So we learn an unbelievable mitzvah from this very, very verse. So, what do we see from here? That when we see that Dina went out, it's not necessarily a bad thing. On the contrary, it's a good thing. See here, now let's summarize what I just said. We take a verse which, for last 2,000 years, or since Matan Torah, everybody has looked at Dina as being, no. You shouldn't be acting like this. You shouldn't be going out. You shouldn't be so. And all of a sudden comes along the Rebbe and gives a deeper meaning, deeper interpretation, but not only deeper interpretation. He finds it in the Rashi. In the same Rashi itself, find in that verse of Ateitzelea. It's fascinating. That's a perfect example of what Hasidus can add to the revealed part of the Torah. The revealed part of the Torah is wonderful, it's nice, but not always do we understand the deeper meaning. Not always do we appreciate the mystical interpretation and how we can see how things which seem not to be good are really, really good. And when you have the Chassidus, we look through the lenses of Chassidus, all of a sudden we develop a different perspective on the revealed part of the Torah, which is so fascinating. How could we do this? Through having the outlook of Kabbalah, which means to be a receiver. Once we are a receiver, then we can accept things which are not necessarily clear otherwise. Okay, so we mentioned before that the Tanya is the Torah Shebichtav, the quote-unquote written Torah of Chassidus. Obviously, the written Torah literally is the Tanakh, and the oral Torah, starting from the Mishnah, Talmud, Meforshim, Rambam, Rishonim, Achronim, Halacha, you name it, until today, that's all the oral Torah. The written Torah is the Tanakh. So it's a sort of a play on words that the Tanya is like the basis, just like by the Tanakh. Every single letter, every single word is exact. So too in the Tanya, there are many interpretations which have been said that the Alter Rebbe chose one word or one letter. So here he chose to do something, to have a different one, to write it differently. It's all very, very meaningful. So the word Tanya, what's the word Tanya? We said in the beginning that you look at the word, you can see what it is. You want to know what's something else, look at the name. So, and at first glance, it's Tanya means a Braita. Braita is similar to a Mishnah. The Mishnah was learned inside the yeshiva for a period of about 400 to 500 years, and then the Talmud was written afterwards as an interpretation for the Mishnah, also for a period of about 400 to 500 years. Sometimes you could have a small Mishnah with 2 or 3 lines and have several pages of Talmud just explaining every little word, every little nuance in that Mishnah. So the Mishnah explains the verse, the Gemara explains the Mishnah, and the Meforshim, Rashi, Tosfos, and all the other great commentators are explaining the Gemara, and then there comes the Halacha, etc., etc. So Tanya is a Braita. It's similar to a Mishnah, but it was learned in the same era, at the same time of the Mishnah, but Braita literally means outside. Bar in Aramaic means outside. And so it was learned outside the shul. I guess maybe the shul was too filled, the yeshivas were packed. There was so much, as we said before, so much learning and so much noise. So some people sat outside and maybe it was overflowing. So the Talmud often compares similar texts of Mishnah versus the Braita, and we can learn different things from how they're written. Now, you take just the word Tanya itself, even before you start reading what this specific Braita teaches us, just look at the words, the letters of the Tanya. That already is very insightful. What is that? That in Hebrew is a very, very beautiful language. It's every detail is very exact. So you have past, present, and future. So let's say there are 4 letters that make a word into future. So let's take an example. How would you say to speak? Daber. Thank you. You get A1 in your Opan. Daber. So you could have like this. Let's take the 4 letters. Taf, Nun, Yud, Aleph. The Taf is Tidaber, you should speak. It's future tense. The Nun is plural. Nid, very good. Nidaber, we will speak. Once again, future tense. The Yud is Yidaber, he will speak. And then you have the Aleph, Adaber. If you put the Aleph beforehand, you have the root word. Adaber means I will speak. So either you should speak, we will speak, he will speak, or I will speak. So you have the word daber, and depending on which letter comes before, and that identifies how we're going to use it, usually in at least in this sense of past, present, and future. So The Alter Rebbe, when he wrote the Tanya, so I believe it was Rabbi Yisroel Goldberg, he was a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, also a student of the Maggid, who was the successor of the Baal Shem Tov. So Rabbi Yisroel Goldberg said, with this book of the Tanya, we're going to go towards Mashiach Tzidkenu. It wasn't just a nice slogan, but he meant it seriously. That because this book is the basis of Hasidus, which helps us reveal the deepest secrets of the Torah, and when Mashiach comes, Mashiach is going to teach us Torah Chadasham Eiti Teitze. Mashiach is going to teach us the quote-unquote new Torah, which is a subject for itself, that Hashem is going to say. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense that with this book, the Tanya, we're going to go towards Mashiach. Now, when we talk about Mashiach, it's called Le'atid Lavo, which is going to come in the future. So all that is alluded to in the first word of the Tanya and the name of the Tanya. Tanya. Taf Nun Yud Aleph. Each one of those teaches us for the future. In other words, that this book is helping us, is accompanying us, is bringing us to the future. Hopefully, that future will be this second. Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach should come this moment. So that's as far as the Tanya is concerned. But it's really important to remember when it comes to Kabbalah, there are a number of things that are very important as far as living a life of Kabbalah, experiencing Kabbalah. What do I mean? I mean that it's really important that a person should not learn Chassidus themselves, generally speaking. It's supposed to be learned from Chavruta or from a Rebbe, mainly from a Rebbe. The Rebbe says a discourse, a mimer. And this mimer is, when the Rebbe, you see the pictures, we have a picture, we have it somewhere over here. We used to be hanging in the King George, where the Rebbe is sitting at the white table, and thousands of Hasidim standing around him. And so when he said a Sikha, everyone sat and listened. But when they sang the special niggud, the special song of the mimer, before the mimer was recited, it was literally a holy experience. Everyone would rise, and it was considered a very, very special moment. The Rebbe would actually hold on to the tablecloth underneath. You saw from the back. I had this zechut as a little child one time to be. The children were usually around the Rebbe underneath the table. So one time I had the great zechut on Shabbos that my father was sitting in the crowd, and I was under the Rebbe's table. So you could see what the Rebbe never put his hands like this on the table. Always like humble. It might sound like a little thing, but just think of it, sitting for several hours, several Farbrengens a month for decades. Never did always sitting humble on his hand underneath. So he would hold on to the tablecloth, so to speak, to hold on. Otherwise, apparently his soul could have expired because of the intensity of the moment of saying a mimer. So what I'm trying to say is as follows. You could look at Hasidus as being a subject. Okay, Kabbalah 101. I want to hear what the Rabbi has to say about Kabbalah. Or come to our Tuesday night class and learn fascinating insights, 7:30 every week, about the davening. Each time, a different part of the davening, how we can understand it, not just according to the translation in the Tilat Hashem, the English translation, but according to the deeper interpretations that are discussed from our Rebbe and the other Rebbes. That's information, a subject. It's not bad, but I think it's perhaps an external part. Everything in the world is something external perspective and an internal perspective. You look at a person, people think, they know everything about them, but really give them a chance to connect. There are many examples. But what I want to say is that the inner part of Kabbalah is being connected to a Rebbe. Connected to a Rebbe means it's not just hearing information from the Rebbe, but it's also an idea of the hiskashrus, of the bonds that one has with the Rebbe. That's really, really important. Once again, getting back to the first point that we talked about, the Kabbalah, which means to receive. Receiving is the foundation when we come to when we come to the idea of learning the idea of Chassidus. In fact, the Alter Rebbe in the second chapter, he doesn't wait too long. In the second chapter, when he says the famous statement, quotes the verse, that the soul of every Jewish person is a chelek elokah mimal, is a part of God from above. And he adds the word mamish, literally. He starts to explain the whole idea that we are children from Hashem, right? The Torah says, Banim atem Hashem Elokechem in Parashat Re'eh. Banim, we are children of Hashem. So, if the Torah says that we are children of Hashem, so let's compare it. Just like by a child. He said as follows, that you have the buildup of a child, of a human being. He starts off being a child. So you have the mind, you have the face, you have the body, the hands, the legs. And the main part of that the father gives, the parents give to in order to create the child, that forms the mind of the child. That's the most elite, the highest part of the child. And then once that has been created, then the rest of the body of the child also gets created. So too in the build-up of Am Yisrael, in every generation we have those of us that are the head, those of us that are the body, those of us that are the legs, even the toenail. It's also, he talks about, I'm not just making it up, he talks about the nails, that the nails and the hair are so, quote unquote, removed that you can even cut it, and you won't even feel, well, actually, only the white part, but hair also, you cut it, and you won't even feel it. But chas v'shalom, if someone wants to cut a finger, boy, do you feel it. So it must be that the hair is so removed from the essence that it's still part of the body. It comes from the body, but it's very, very low level. So in the build-up of Am Yisrael, we're all one embodiment. The Talmud Yerushalmi says this. The Jerusalem Talmud. He says, over there talking about Ahavas Yisrael, how we can love every single Jew. So if we look at another Jew as being part of our body, can you imagine one hand fighting with the left hand? That would be terrible. So because it's impossible to have that because both hands are part of one body. So if we view Am Yisrael as being one embodiment, then we realize that some of us are in different parts of this embodiment. That's why the Torah sometimes refers to Moshe Rabbeinu and other leaders as being Einei Ha'ida, the eyes of the community. The eyes means that it's the most refined part of the body is the eyes. This has the most spiritual part of the body, which is vision. We have no idea how the vision works, but the idea is that it's not only physical vision, it's spiritual vision. You can see far, you can be responsible, and you can plan, and you can organize, you can form Am Yisrael in a way that they're all safe. So to also some of the tzaddikim are called Rashei Alfei Yisrael, the heads of Am Yisrael. So you have, for example, Yitro. Yitro gave advice to his son-in-law Moshe Rabbeinu, and he said, "You have too much of a responsibility, of a headache. You need to split up Am Yisrael, split responsibility. You have Sarei Alafim, ministers for groups of 1,000. Sarei Meos, ministers for groups of 100. Sarei Chamishim, ministers for leaders for groups of 50. If you gotta go, it's perfectly fine. I really appreciate you coming. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry. Every minute that you're here is special. Yeshakah. We look forward to seeing you again. Sarei Chamishim, ministers of 50, and Sarei Asarot, also leaders of groups of 10. Each one is on their own level. It's perfectly fine. Then you have the Moshe. Moshe is the Rosh. Actually, Rebbe. Talk about Rebbe, right? Rebbe is the acronym of Rosh B'nai Yisrael, the head of Am Yisrael. And we see it by the Rebbe. You see how many people from all different walks of life, all different, even non-Jews would come to the Rebbe and seek the Rebbe's advice and inspiration. So that's called the head. The head is. So what I'm trying to say is as follows: that it's not, when we learn Chassidus, it's not just the information. The information is important, and through the information, hopefully, the insights will explain how important it is to have this Rebbe Chassid relationship. But it's not just about the information. It's also about the ruach, the spirit, on a day-to-day basis of having this special relationship between a Rebbe and a Chassid. That was really, really important for me to share with you. Now I want to share with you something very, very, very touching to me. And that is that, first I want to say that my mother needs a refuah shalema, a complete recovery, so please continue to daven a lot for her. Her name is Rechavia, Bat Chaya Sarah. And the reason why I'm mentioning my mother now is because my mother has a special passion for a certain chapter of Tanya. The Tanya is divided into 5 parts. You have the Likutei Amarim, that's really the main part of the Tanya. Then you have it's called Chinuch Katan. Well, it's the second part of Likutei Amarim. It's called Chinuch Katan. It's only 2 pages. This is the whole thing. And then you have Shari Yekut Ve'Amuna. It talks about the unification of Hashem and belief in Hashem. And then you have the Igeret Tshuva, which is the 12 chapters of how to do Teshuvah and repentance. Then you have Igeret HaKodesh, the letters. I'm going to get back to this in a second. Then you have Kunter Safran, which is what we're learning now. We just finished today. Excuse me, please, the entire Tanya, and that is interpretations for certain parts of the Likutei Amarim, the first part of the Tanya. Excuse me, please. And so the 4th part is called Igeret HaKodesh, the holy letters of the Alter Rebbe. Just it's gathered together from different places. And so the number 11, Yud Aleph, is a very, very powerful, very deep, very, very deep chapter. Okay, and I want these few minutes I'll be learning about this. It should be a zechut, it should be a merit for my mother's refuah shalema. And the Alter Rebbe explains over here that the Alter Rebbe, you're welcome to come inside. There's some seats right here. Bakasha. So the Alter Rebbe said as follows: that we need to have pure emunah, faith, and bitachon, and certainty, trust in Hashem, that everything is going to be good. Now, here's the punchline. If a person has in their life any specific occurrence which is negative, which is even sad, and it can break the person's heart, then that's a red line. A person should not be sad. A person should not be heartbroken at something that happens. Why? Because since Hashem is good, and is not only good, is the epitome of good, truly good, deeply good, and everything that Hashem does, not only for the good, it is good. What's the problem? What's the obvious problem? That we don't see how it's good. But the Alter Rebbe uses the word Tov ha'elyon haganuz. Ganuz is hidden. Remember we talked before about Kabbalah being kes, like hidden. It's also sod. By the way, sod is a secret, right? It says nichnas yayin yatsa sod. The wine goes in, a person starts opening up. Yayin is wine. It's compared to pnimiyut Torah, the mystical part of the Torah. When we learn the Torah as the yayin, that reveals the hidden things, so that the good should not, in this case, that the good should not be hidden. So this is very, very hard to understand. And as human beings, maybe we'll never understand it, but that doesn't change the fact that every single thing that Hashem does in the world is good. Tov is good. Aval Hama'amin, he says, someone who believes, Lo Yachush, will not be afraid of anything in the world. So on one hand, what are we saying? We're saying that Hashem is good, but it could be hidden, it could be unclear. And I'm sure every person here has a number of things, either personal or historical, that have been terrible for Am Yisrael, terrible. You don't have to go too far back. So, whatever you can think of, Hashem did, and Hashem is good. And someone who is truly good only does good and nothing but good. That's point number 1. I think the second point is the main point. Not to minimize from the first point, but the second point is that we have to have our prayer, our wish needs to be that we should see the good. maybe we won't see how in the past, but we have to pray to Hashem that from this moment and on, Hashem should not deal with us in riddles. There should be clear, begalui. It should be revealed. That's the key word, begalui. By the way, that's redemption. Geulah. Geulah, that's what redemption is all about. To reveal, to express the good that Hashem is, that there should never ever be again, chas v'shalom, a scenario where any person, any Jew has something which is painful, which is, he calls it ra ha-medumeh, seemingly bad. And these words are very, very hard to say. Very, very hard to say. And it's almost impossible to fathom. I don't know how. But at least the facts we need to know. At least we need to know what this is one of the most fundamental chapters of the Tanya. That the Alter Rebbe teaches us how spirituality being revealed is supposed to be on the front burner. It's supposed to be on the top of the priority list for us to pray to Hashem that we should have the revelation of the hidden good. That the hidden good should not remain hidden, but from now on we should only have revealed. So in other words, now we're going to summarize this whole subject. What we're saying is, what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah 101. Kabbalah is made up of, number one, an approach of being a receiver. That it's not that I'm the big macher, I'm the big understander, the big professor, but who am I? In fact, there's a great statement in the it's not even Chassidus, I think it's from the Rashba. He says, the ultimate, the purpose of knowing you, Hashem, is that we'll never know you. What does that mean? So you learn more. Don't you know more? No. The more you learn, the more we know how we know zero. And more zero, minus. So we're learning more. So ordinarily, if you're talking from a human perspective, a person will say, I'm learning more about how zero I am, so why should I keep on learning? But we realize that this learning of me feeling minus zero is so unbelievable. It connects me, elevates me so much to Hashem that it's not offensive. On the contrary, I want more. And the more you learn, I want to know more. And the more we know you, Hashem, the more we know how little we know, how zero we know, and how tiny we are, how nothingness we are. So it just keeps on going. That's what Kabbalah is all about. To connect to Hashem is supposed to uplift us. The teachings of Chassidus are supposed to lift us up, to make us closer to Hashem. And also learning the teachings of Chassidus need to be in a way that we can reveal that which is hidden, like we said from the Tanya also, this chapter 11, in the Geret HaKodesh, that everything is good, but we want to see it. It's not just enough the knowledge. We daven to Hashem, but we want to see it. That from now on, no one should have to suffer. There should only be a revealed good. And finally, just to finish off with one line, that is that when the Rebbe took on the leadership of Chabad in 1951 mainly, he came up with a new slogan. And he said it time and time again. And it became part of the DNA of Chabad. I think even the DNA of Judaism in general. 3 words: Betov, Hanir'eh, v'Hanigleh. With revealed good and obvious good. In other words, that's in 3 words. It summarizes this whole chapter and summarizes the whole subject. That everything Hashem does is good, but it's got to be. We have brachas, we have everything, all the things, all the davening is wonderful, but it has to be betov hanir'eh v'hanigleh. It has to be revealed good, and it has to be obvious good. Bezrat Hashem, thank you so much for joining us.